We've got a perfect day for baseball. It's the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox.
Jimmy Shorts, and Jimmy, this is going to be a good matchup today.
The last time these two teams...
Welcome to the Rounding Third podcast, a show so good that a Red Sox and a Yankees fan put aside their differences to deliver you A-plus content. As always, I am joined by my token co-host and our Yankee hire, Coach Kevin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Coach Seeks. You know, it's Memorial Day weekend coming up. We wanted to squeeze a pod in, graduation season, but I feel like most of all, it's like kind of that time of the year where it really feels like baseball is like starting to kick in, you know. The boys of summer are getting out there. We still have the hockey. We still have some of the basketball playoffs, go Pacers. But it's really just, you know what I mean, that time of year where you want to get out.
Sorry, I had to mute him. He said go Pacers. But anyways, Kevin, you make a good point. We're having baseball games in the middle of the day. I'm starting to watch more baseball. And most importantly, for the effort of today's episode, Red Sox, Yankees, you and I, this is our sole matchup this week.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been back and forth. I mean, we're sitting here at Thursday. It's going to be too close to call. We're both getting, you know, big performances from a bunch of different guys. So we're going to go into it, but it's pretty exciting stuff.
I'm interested. We did a quick little proposal. You don't have to tip your cap, but we decided that the loser sits out for next week's episode and that we're respectively going to replace the counterparts. Do you have anybody in mind that you might replace me with?
You know, I don't want to assume anything's going to happen. So I'm going to keep thinking. I don't know if you've thought about anyone either, but I think there's 2 or 3 candidates that I think would fit the bill, especially who haven't been on the pod yet.
Yeah, Billy Ward, get ready for the call. I'll let you know. Before we move forward to our matchup, we now have to kind of look back to how things have gone in week 6 and 7. Definitely surprised. You have a lot of like people that have either, not to call out Jay, not won a matchup, or you've had some people that are on 2-game win streaks like you and myself. As always, I'm going to give you the mic. Talk to me about how things are going respectively in that National League, Kevin. What are you seeing? What do you like? And how did week 6 and 7 go?
Yeah, you know, we just talked about Billy. I mean, it's really just becoming a theme every week or every time we hop on here. 2-0. Jose Ramirez has been like, I think, best player in baseball. Like 5 homers, I think, since the last pod. Really just kind of strong performances all around. And he absolutely annihilated Jay last week. 250-point margin of victory. You don't see that too often. And I think that was just another statement win for him. So he's in solo first. Just running down the list here, Air Jordan got that much-needed victory against No Crying in Jersey. Remember, that was like the back-to-back situation. So kind of got his little revenge there. And then lost to you, actually. I think that was a kind of a beatdown from your side. Just to keep rolling, Hot Ice James. Another guy that's been lighting up the league, Kyle Tucker. I mean, that guy's been on fire, like 6 home runs, I think, since the last pod. James, you know, a little 1-1 bounce back, I think. He had that really strong week 6 against Jazzy, who surprisingly put up like over 700 points, but James was over 800, and he kind of really like nailed the coffin into him. And then week 7, lost a tight one against Sean. I know James was chirping on the side a little bit, a little frustrated that Sean was taking him down, but he's still at a solid 3 and 4, right in the hunt. So, you know, would make the playoffs as of today. Mike, you know, you had, you know, one of the better like last couple of weeks, 2-0. You talked about Bryce Harper before. He's been tearing it up. Ranger Suarez, I mean, who saw this coming? Like 3 more wins since the last pod, like well over 20 strikeouts. I mean, this guy's been like absolutely dominant. One of your better pickups this year. So we'll see if you can kind of keep that going this week. But otherwise, we'll round it out with no crying in Jersey. I think there is some crying in Jersey, though. We kind of look at where things stand. He was in a good spot at 3-2, and now he's, kind of on the outs actually in the 8th spot, after 2 losses. Some, good performers, but really, he's kind of struggled to kind of put points on the board, two consecutive matchups in a row. So, we'll see, if he can rebound this week against Sean.
Yeah, no, great analysis. And again, that national division there is a tough one, man. Looking forward to the American. It was a little bit of an iPod shuffle, man, in the standings. And it's like interesting where it's like you could have the same win as another team. And again, you could be 8 versus 5. But just to start from the top, Boss Brando, he took a big jump with Sean losing, took that second place spot, 1-1 overall. He has some really good pitchers that have been pitching well for him. Calling out a Yankees guy, Lewis Heel has been a big reason for this push. Just a guy that's, I don't want to say middle of the pack pitcher, but he's been like kind of out pitching his background there. And another, speaking of, Sean's a Yankees fan, right?
Oh yeah.
Big Yankees fan, 1-1 as well. He did lose that second spot, but respectively, he's still there in the top dog in the number 3 spot. Big reason, speaking of Yankees, Aaron Judge, I feel like he's kind of waking up now. He was like tearing the cover off the ball, had an MVP season, and he's starting to kind of remind us who he is. Home runs matter in our league. So Sean's respectively in that 3 spot. You yourself, waiver wires matter, man. Matt Chapman, just like has been this week respectively is 84 points. He's just hitting home runs. That matters. You ride those waves of players that are warm. Big reason you went to 2-0. Jazzy Ding Dongs, other side of the spectrum, 0-2. He shuffled down to 9. Big fall for him. It is cool being a Sox fan. Devers had that like streak of home runs. That was really fun to watch. However, it didn't push him to win any of the games. And then there's just old man Kamesh, dude, 0-2, lost by 250 points to Polar Pete's. If you're going to look for any ray of sunshine with him, Luis Matos, who saw him playing well? I certainly didn't. You need guys like that to kind of cheer for as you haven't won a game yet, but
need something to smile about.
Need something to smile about. So AL and NL, I would say, have been like you have a couple of different people in the top, and the middle is spoken for differently every week. And again, after this 7th week, now into our 8th, we're kind of at that halfway point, the 50-yard line of the season. What have you kind of thought thus far, and what's going to be critical moving into that final half of the season?
I just wanted to like kind of reiterate those top 3 teams again.
Yeah.
And kind of like what's going on. So like Polar Pete's, I think he's the guy everyone wants to beat. I mean, I think we're all looking up in the standings. I think we know come playoff time, he's going to be like at least the 1 seed. You know what I mean? If someone catches him, like, best of luck to you. But the guy just like has been on a tear all year. Brando, pulled the trigger on a big trade. That's going to be a big topic in this pod in just a few minutes here, but really made a big move with Jay. And we're going to kind of see how that plays out. But as you talked about before, like he's in a very good spot, in the standings. And Sean, tied with him right there, technically in the 3 seed. But, you mentioned Judge getting on at the right time. He's got a solid squad top to bottom. We had him on the pod last week, and we're just seeing consistent winning with all 3 of these teams.
It's kind of crazy. 5 through 8 are a 3-win club. You have that 4th win over us, but you're really looking at that middle of the pack. How is that going to shake up? Because the top 6 teams get in. And I feel like in any given week, you could have a brand new batch of 6 teams. So for me, it's going to be, can you stay with the pack? Can you separate yourself from the pack? If you're losing, what can you do to kind of gain some ground? And again, if you're Jay, we haven't figured this out. We tried to before the podcast started. Mathematically, when is your season done? When are you focusing on fantasy football? Jazzy Ding Dongs, kind of the same territory, man. When are you going to make the trade for Acuna to give someone else Ronald Acuna? He deserves a championship, but yeah.
Jazzy, one of the more vocal, guys who wants to trade in the league. Yeah. I don't know if he's even, had one yet. He had the one with Jay back in early May, but I think he's going to have to make a move as well. It's go time.
What you have isn't working for you, but you had someone recognize that in Shohei's bookie, that sketchy Kimmich. He pulled off a trade, man. You and I had some direct dialogue around the trade, following it. You gave me a shout. And it wasn't like you were really pushing back, but you're like, this is a big trade, man. This is a big trade. And it was. And in your head, you're like, make some sense of it. And I admittedly sat there and looked at it. I was like, there's a lot of players I haven't really been able to digest it yet myself either.
Right.
In order to do so, I think the only way to talk about this blockbuster thoroughly is to have those two coaches in. A little bit of context. You weren't here. I was sitting at Jeremy's dinner table with the family. He FaceTimed Brando. They both felt really good about the trade.
There's some big names in there.
Yeah.
9 players. Yeah.
Big names, big players. The only way to really get that understanding is to have them come in and talk through. So we will have the commission will have Brando come and kind of vouch their side of how they're thinking. Joined now by our 10th place coach, a man that has been wheeling and dealing to keep that 10th place cemented. We have Shohei's bookie, your commissioner. He's here today to talk about, let's call it what it is, the league's biggest blockbuster thus far. Mr. Commissioner, how are you today?
Good evening, gents. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here, man. We have our front office pulling in perhaps one of the greatest trade of the league thus far, man. I was telling Kevin when you were FaceTiming Jay, I was there to kind of see the behind the scenes, but like, this is interesting stuff, man. Me and Kevin were hashing up over the weekend. We're like, this is a big boy trade.
This is a league we don't see a lot of trades in. And it's kind of funny. You've been the only one to actually be a part of every trade in the league so far. There's only been 3 trades. This by far the biggest. 9 players involved. Just to recap it again, sending over 5 players. Caminero, Bueller, Skeens, Garcia, and Tatis. Coming back from Brando's Morel, Carroll, Musgrove, and Glasnow. So have some big names sprinkled in there. We really just kind of wanted to give you guys a forum to talk about kind of the conversations that led up to this trade, kind of how this framework came together. And Brando, you want to go ahead first?
Well, it's funny because I know Seeks and Jeremy, when y'all FaceTimed me, first off, you got the introduction to my girlfriend, which was great because she was right there. I had been talking about it with her behind the scenes. I was like, I have a chance to get Tatis. And I knew he had kind of had an up and down, when he's hot, he's really hot, scorching. But I also knew that he was a guy that could be tradable for. I didn't intend on giving up Carroll for it. I was honestly, for as much as Carroll may have struggled at the gate, I spent the number 5 overall pick on him because I still do believe in him. Questions about his shoulder maybe at the beginning of the season, but I mean, he's starting to put together some good at bats within the past couple of weeks. And so that was a tough part of the piece that I initially wasn't even thinking about, trying to get rid of. Jeremy was the one that mentioned getting Glasnow or Altuve would move the needle a little bit more. Ultimately, I went with Glasnow. I that's a guy who's top 3 favorite to win the Cy Young this year. Yeah. He's been dealing. He's been the number 1 pitcher in baseball thus far this season. So it was tough. Jeremy had to kind of squeak the wheel a little bit more or put oil on there to give up getting rid of Glasnow. I'm a Dodgers guy, right? So that was that was a really hard decision there. But I knew that to give up Carroll, to give up Glasnow would get me Tatis. I also was telling Jeremy that I was like, listen, I'll give you perhaps my stick of dynamite, who is Chris Morel. Love having him. That guy's an absolute warrior. And so for me, it was just it felt like it was a big deal. A lot of heavy hitters, a lot of sticks of dynamite in there. Obviously Jeremy, he it took a lot on his part to want to move off of certain guys. He initially offered me Jackson Holiday.
Yep.
Yeah, Holiday. I countered with Caminero. I figured that was a guy who would just be the parsley leaf on the deal. I just waiting on him, for when the time comes for him to get called up. Who would, if you're a Rays fan, like who knows when that's going to be. But right. So there was the framework in there. It took a little while to figure out the details, but ultimately that was kind of the deal that we set on for Morel, for along with my 1st and 4th round pick for his top guys.
I liked focusing on Brando because he's a very interesting team where you overthrew Sean, man. You position yourself top of that American League, 5 wins. Do you think that this was a trade that put you over the edge to kind of separate yourself further from the pack? Like, you obviously were thinking postseason with this move.
Thinking postseason and thinking about elevating the floor. For me, I was telling Jeremy a little while back, if not for a 200 bomb on a Sunday, thanks to Alec Boehm, I could be 4-3 right now, and I could be more in the middle of the pack. That was really the swing. Shout out Jazzy. That was a hell of a battle last week, honestly. And so, yeah, and like I said, if not for a 40+ bomb from Boehm on Sunday, like, I would have been dead in the water, or I wouldn't have been seen as the contender in that sense. I really like the squad that I have. I really think the difference in it was I addressed it in the draft. I really went heavy on pitcher, because that's where I figured, like, listen, they may go once a week, maybe twice a week if you get a double start, but as the season goes along, it's good to have that depth. A couple guys hit the IL. Like, I have 3 guys on the IL right now. And so I was just like, okay, well, as the season progresses, maybe some of these pitchers, they start breaking out. I can use them as part of these packages to improve the batting order.
I hope that you're able to look at it at this point and be like, man, this put me over the edge. You look good from playoff time. And speaking of elevating the floor, we have a coach that's on the floor right now. I don't want to put words in Jay's mouth, but he was in a position right now. He hasn't won a game yet. He just lost by 250 points. Jay, talk us through this, man. Because did you initiate? Did Brando initiate? What was your thought process on your end? Oh, it's Brando.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to us about your perspective.
So, yeah, I would have to scroll back to the text, Brando. But yeah, Brando was just like, hey, it's Tatis up for grabs. And I was just like, look, I'm at the time I was 0-6. The playoff window is shrinking. And this is when it's time to shake things up, man. It's time to shake things up. And I was like, I'm open to hearing what you have to offer. Now, if you're familiar with my team, we're injured top to bottom. And, it just hasn't really worked out for me this year. So I was willing to move away from the pieces that I feel like could benefit a team that, like, is in a better position than me, like a Paul Skeens, like a Caminero, those guys who could potentially pop off down the road. I don't have time to wait for those guys to pop off. I don't have time to wait for a Jackson Holiday. I need to take a chance with those lottery tickets, like a Corbin Carroll, who Brandon probably, I know, first round pick, but rookie of the year last year. Maybe he could just turn it around, and that's just all we need for a run. Shaking it up. I love Fernando Tatis. I think he's one of the most explosive players in baseball when healthy. We go back and forth with the trades. I'll shoot him a trade. One trade might be ridiculous. And, I'm pretty sure one of the times Brandon was like, come on, J-Dog, come on. I'm like, and,
it's because he wanted Altuve and Glasnow. And I was like,
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I did. I made it easy for Brando. I told him, hey, these are the guys I'm interested in. Come back to me and, like, make some deal. And then, we ended up working it.
Because before he gave me that list, I had given him an offer of Altuve, Green, and Jared Jones.
Ooh.
And so I was cool with departing with that package there. But ultimately, that's when he was the one that J-Dog, he initiated Corbin Carroll into the deal. I was like, okay. I was like, if you want Corbin Carroll, like, we can let me cook something up.
I think just to, like, kind of finish it out here, with kind of like a few days now, like, removed from the trade, like, how do you guys feel overall? Any regrets? Yes, for both of you, do you think that are there any other moves to be made? Do you see any other trades on the board that you think will benefit either of you?
I love the new team. I love it. I think everyone kind of fits into their place. Corbin Carroll had a huge two-run triple last night. It's just I can see it's different, and we got a good, comfortable lead against hot ice right now. Potentially, let's see if we can carry it on through the weekend. Maybe I get my first win with this new crew, and we don't look back after that. Who knows? But no, I'm pumped. I really like it. I really like how we look, and just need a couple more guys to come back from the injury list, and maybe we're cooking. But as far as regrets, I mean, everyone who's made a trade in any fantasy league keeps tabs on who you traded away. You're gonna always, like, dude, I've been checking Tatis's numbers every single night. I'm like, but you know what? That's just the price you pay. You gotta take the risks. I'm excited, man. When the trade deadline happens, I'd like to make at least one more deal before the trade deadline happens.
Mike Trout up for grabs, or is he a piece? Is he going to be a piece of your playoff push?
No, everyone's up for grabs. Everyone.
Wow. Brando, what are you thinking, man, on your side?
I really like the squad overall. I do feel like I'm a little weak in outfield, obviously getting rid of Corbin Carroll and Morel. With Morel, obviously you get some position flexibility that you gave up, which is cool. So I'm kind of holding tryouts for the outfield spots right now. Right now I've got Tommy Pham and I picked up Verdugo earlier today to see, what kind of how hot they can get within this next, call it, couple days or so. For now, I think overall from top to bottom, I feel pretty good about the squad. And, especially with, free agent pitchers that I've gotten, like I feel great about picking up Jack Flaherty and Luis Gil. Like, I think those guys have been, perfect for me. Still am open to making deals. I see Luis Robert on the IL, and
Yep.
and I see
Hot ice.
I see Hot Ice and I maybe having a discussion soon about just seeing how much he values him. But other than that, I feel good about the squad. Feel ready.
Awesome.
The Brandos are ready to cook.
Well, it definitely was a trade that caught a lot of eyes, and we're obviously going to be grading it at the end of the year. Who won the trade? Because that's all everyone cares about. Coach Kamish, hope you get that first W, and Coach Brando, hope that second seed stays with you, man. Yeah, how long did that take you to make? How long?
What do you mean? I walked in here and they're up on the wall.
Thanks for
Is this thing on? Is this thing on?
Thanks for joining us, guys. Great deal. Hope good luck this week. It's always great to hear from guys in the league. This is like Segway City. You and I have been on a good one this week. I've been having dialogues on my side. I don't know if it's the same way on your end. I've had with almost everybody in the league trade dialogue, which I love. Like, everybody's active. They kind of get that sense that it's anybody's league. This makeshift project today is ranking the top 5 players that you would like to trade with. So you think would be easiest to get a deal done with. Where would you rank the commissioner and how likely you would be to trade with him?
I think especially given our conversation with him and the fact that he's basically open to like anyone going on the block.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd probably put him right there in the 2 spot.
Ooh.
And, Jay's a good friend. I think like we could have a pretty civil dialogue and make something work. So I'll put him in the 2 spot. Yeah.
All right. We're going to go to your brother, Sean. Hasn't made any waiver wire moves. Is he a guy that would trade? He kind of said maybe he would. Look further down the line. Where would you put your brother?
Yeah, he's probably 20 feet away from me right now in the other room. He's visiting right now. So it's a very easy, just open the door, get a conversation going. So ease of access, you know what I mean? Just to make something happen. It's right there. I do know he's pretty, anti-trade. Like we've said, I don't think something would eventually get done, but I'll put him at the 4 spot.
Interesting. All right. Guy at the top of the list, got a lot of good players. Polar Pete's. Where'd you put Polar Pete's on your list?
Polar Pete's, I think I'm throwing right at the 1.
Wow.
Just because I think like anything to like change what's been happening with that guy's team, and I love Polar Pete's. I mean, how can you not? Just like up and down. It's an all-star lineup. So if I could be part of the reason to, maybe change things up and benefit from like 1 or 2 guys that he's willing to let go of, I mean, Billy, I'm here.
No crying in Jersey.
I think I'm going to throw him in the 5 spot.
Wow.
Nothing against him. I don't see a lot of guys, especially with like needs I might have and like where I'm kind of strongest. I don't think it would really make sense for us to kind of put something out there. I'm happy to talk to him about it, but I know he's not going to get rid of Betts. There's a couple Phillies on there and a few other guys. I just know it's not going to happen. So that's the only reason I think I'd put him at the 5.
The most obvious person to slide in with the last one was Jazzy Ding Dongs, but your 3rd ranked team, Hot Ice, guy that's really active. I could actually see you in Hot Ice. You said you had some previous dialogue with him. Just quickly, do you think that there's an avenue to be had there with him?
I think we've talked about some options even in the last like 72 hours.
Wow.
we always have a text dialogue going, and
You.
yeah, I think especially like given where he's at in the standings, kind of in the middle of the pack, the pressure's going to be on for him to make something happen. So whether it's with me or someone else, that's definitely a possible scenario.
Wow. From what it sounds like, we have 5 teams that you would openly trade with. I just looked it up during this. July 25th, the trade deadline. So a couple of months away, plenty of time to get some deals done. But speaking of being done, Kevin, Sunday is when you and I's matchup will be done. I wish you the best of luck this week. Regardless of what the standings are, there will be a new host next week, but it's me and you now. We're gonna do our way out. I think we kind of got it down. You started off, and then we'll end it together.
I've been practicing like since we got off the last pod every single night.
All right.
Strike 1.
Strike 2.
Strike 2.
No,
Strike 3.
Kevin,
Oh.
no. I do strike. All right. We'll get you and the next host, or me and the next host will get next week. Start again.
Strike 1.
Strike 2.
Strike 3.
We're out. We'll see you guys next week.
Later, guys. We're out.